Morning, this is the Desert Shaman coming to you from Nevada. What is the date today? It is 9:55 a.m. and it is the 25th of March. Boy, March went by quick, didn't it? So I thought I'd talk about the Kali Yuga today. This is the Desert Shaman. What is the Kali Yuga? Kaliyuga, Kali Yuga. Ancient word or words for a cycle in history, a cycle of time. And basically the Kali Yuga is the darkest Yuga. There are several yugas. I think there's 4 in Hindu mythology and in Hindu teachings. And it's a cycle of darkness, basically. It's a cycle of darkness. Are we at the end of it? Well, some people say, astronomers and archaeologists and historians say that it started around 3114 BCE, the cycle. And these cycles are, without a doubt, real, okay? And it's evidenced by the fact of what we are experiencing right now in this day and time. We are at the end of the Kali Yuga, the dark cycle, the dark Yuga, the destructive Yuga. This correlates with other things too, like Hopi Prophecy, Fourth World Emergence, that kind of thing. And it also correlates somewhat with Mayan calendars. The Kali Yuga is thousands of years in length, and some have calculated that we are in the end of the Kali Yuga, and some have calculated that to be 2025, which is 2 years away, 2025. Some have calculated, and I think that's an astronomical calculation. Which is the more reliable in my mind? Astronomical calculations are more reliable than other calculations. Astronomers, ancient astronomers, looking at the stars like everybody did that was indigenous. They looked at the stars, they read the stars, and they figured out certain dates by the position of the stars, by the position of the constellations in the heavens, and the alignment of certain planets. What does it say about the Kali Yuga? What does ancient history, ancient teachings say about the Kali Yuga? Well, it says that the Kali Yuga is when mankind strays way, way, way far away from morality. In other words, and it uses the word religion, but the word religion has a different connotation or a different meaning than it does today. When they spoke of religion, they spoke of spirituality, true heartfelt spirituality, love, compassion, understanding, knowledge, enlightenment, standing in awareness. You can use all those definitions. So, mankind has drawn far away, and you can see that in the world around us today, from any kind of spiritual teachings. Yes, they have their so-called religious teachings, which again is a total definition today. It's more about dogma and guilt and fear and all that kind of stuff. So what happens when mankind draws away from spirituality? Well, he becomes an animal. He becomes, I won't say an animal, we already are animals. He becomes dark. He becomes soulless almost. He becomes without a conscience. Now we see a lot of people today that fit that bill, including the governmental leaders. They're like, I was watching a thing the other day, a video on two spokesmen for the government, a general and a I don't know what he is, Secretary of State or something. And their faces look like ugly. They look like gargoyles. They looked twisted. They looked tired. They looked like they were possessed. And if you look at a lot of the leaders today, they have this look of almost like gargoyles, almost like paper cutouts, almost like masks. Okay? Why is that? Because they don't have a soul. They don't have a soul. They're so far away from their heart center and the light. Okay, and they're so far away from being tuned into a higher consciousness and a higher awareness. They're just like puppets. They're totally controlled by archontic forces. Now, how does the archontic forces figure into the Kali Yuga? Well, it only stands to reason that if you draw away from the light and you're in the darkness, well, then the dark forces are going to invade or take over or control your body and mind and or whatever. So the people that are drawing away from the light, the people that are drawing away from, let's say, Mother Earth and that consciousness, basically they don't have a soul and they don't have a conscience, and they're weak, basically. They think they're strong, okay? They think they're strong with their wars and their proclamations and their demands and their rules of law and all that good shit. They think they're strong, but really they're weak. People that are enlightened, people that have a higher awareness or on a higher vibrational frequency, are 10 times stronger than they are. So if you have a group of people, shamans or people that are into shamanistic activity, you have power. You have a lot of power. Because you're not a paper cutout. You're not a plastic person. You're not a gargoyle. The gargoyles seemingly run the world. They have us in a situation where there's so much darkness and there's so much a web, let's say a web. You ever walk through a spider web and feel that on your face? Kind of a creepy feeling, isn't it? Well, these people have spun that kind of web around the consciousness of humanity. How did these people get to this point where they're in control? And well, because it goes back to the Kali Yuga. It's a cycle. Now, the Hopi talked about the emergence in the fourth world, and incidentally, I think the Kali Yuga talks about a fourth world. So, The Hopi's emergence, like emerging from the fourth world into the fifth world, is much like, or probably is exactly the same as the ending of the Kali Yuga cycle and going into the next Yuga. The next Yuga will be more light. So what happens at the end of the Kali Yuga? Well, things get real bad. Things get real dark. Things get almost hopeless. Things get to the point where you just want to throw up your hands and go, what is this shit? What's going on here? And that's, in my opinion, that's where we are today. That's where we are today. If you hear something in the background, it's my fan, my little heater going on and off. I'm sorry if it interferes, but it's either that or get real cold here. It's a nice day in the desert, though. It's a nice day here. Incidentally, I'm going to do a future video on the outside. I did a video on the inside of my digs here, but I've already got one lined up for the outside. Going to talk about that a little bit. Thank you for watching this channel. Click the like button and subscribe and all that stuff. And help support this channel by going to spiritofcrazyhorse.com and making a donation. Incidentally, I got a donation from Tracy Morris. I think I mentioned that before. I don't know. Thank you for that. And I sent her a copy of my PDF books for free. So, good on that, huh? Getting a little movement here, a little appreciation. That's always welcome. Back to the Kali Yuga, though. That was my little commercial break there. Back to the Kali Yuga. So when we hit the end of this cycle, like I say, it's just like the Hopis when they talk about emergence. And the same thing happens in the Hopi worldview. The same thing happens as far as it getting real dark and mankind ignoring the creator. In the mythology of the Hopis, they call it Masao, is the god that people disrespected and went on their own way of high immorality and getting away from morals. When I'm talking about morals and immorality, I'm not talking about the biblical view. I'm talking about the heartfelt view, the natural law view, the view of compassion and love, okay, as opposed to war, destruction, filth, degradation. Everything is not on a sacred level when you're on that level. When you're experiencing those kind of problems in the world, you're not on a sacred level. You're on more of a profane level. Now, if you ask me, all this stuff is just kind of like the yin and yang of the universe, the dark and light, the chaos, within duality. It's within duality. So what happens? Well, it flips. You got the darkness, and then you got the light, and then you got the darkness, and then you got the light. So I'm thinking right now that basically by seeing the sheer horrors of the world surrounding us, it's a strong indication that we're experiencing the darkness of the end of the Kali Yuga and getting ready to make a huge dimensional shift. See, so in that regard too, the dimensional shift or the end of the Kali Yuga, there's a transition period. And I think they say it's about 300 years. Transition period. To the next yuga, to the next world, to the next cycle. But that doesn't mean that things are all bad in that 300-year transition period. It means they're starting to all of a sudden get better. You know, it's a transition. It's a evolutionary cycle. So when you're in that end period, you're in that you start going into the transition period, and you're not so shocked. Mankind or the anthropos or humanity is not so. It's a gradual change into another, process, okay? However, going into the transition process, this is my personal opinion, can be almost instantaneous. I mean, there's a little boop, there's a little bump there from going one to the other. And that can be quite shocking or quite eye-opening, let's say. For the people that haven't been transitioning, okay, haven't been doing spiritual practices, and I'm kind of thinking that we're in that transition period. We're already in it, and there's going to be incremental jumps, little incremental jumps from one level of consciousness to the other. Now, those who, let's say, were practicing spiritual practices at the beginning of the transition period, some say that other calculations have said that the transition period could have begun as early as 1914. Some put it after that. Some put it in the 2025. You're never going to know the real calculations mathematically from the ancients, because that's all been kind of covered up. It's nebulous. But what you can do is look around you. You can look around you and you can see the signs. And we've been in a period of darkness now for in war and strife. Well, when did the world wars start? Well, they started in 1914, didn't they? I think so. So that could have been part of the culmination of the horrific events in the Kali Yuga. And then you went on to World War II, and now we're in a third phase, or a third World War, which indicates to me that we're further on in the transition and that we're experiencing more of a global thing, more of a worldwide, global, and it's not just like a physical blowing up people in that kind of war. It's a war that's on a much higher level, and has to do with financial situations, again, morality. Now, just in the last, 4 years, 5 years, you've seen an increase in confusion on the gender level, let's say, going to extremes, trying to indoctrinate children people sitting in front of their computers all the time and getting programmed with AI. Used to be they, sat in front of the television set, but now they sit in front of their iPhone and their computer, and the kids are all locked into the computers in school, and they use it continually now. So there's that web also. And the Hopi spoke about a web around the world. Many people thought it was the roads at first, and they said it was the railroads, and then they said it was the World Wide Web. Now I'm thinking it could even be more extreme, since we got 4,000 Starlink satellites going around the world right now, and sticking more up there. And if you look at it, looks like a tennis ball with a lot of pins in it. Okay, 4,000 pins, if you can imagine that. So during this darkness, technology plays a big part of the darkness because it masks the light. It robotizes people, makes robots out of them. Robotizes. Is that a word? Well, it is now. So this is what we see going on, and then also we see a lack of compassion amongst families and people in general, and division, blindness as far as emotional connections go. It's really an indicator of the time we're in. So I just thought that kind of popped up in my mind, the Kali Yuga, and associated with Kali and the goddess who destroys but also reveals. So basically what I'm saying here is that we're probably at the end of a cycle, and we're going into another cycle, and there's a lot of darkness. But hold on to your lug nuts, because it's going into a phase now where we might see, in our particular time, we might actually see the evil in the darkness be slayed, beheaded by the goddess Kali, which is a metaphor for the buildup is so strong now, something has to be done about it. So that force, that Kali, or Mother Earth, or Unsi Maka, or Vajra Valasi, the thunderbolt, is going to make an adjustment. So you could call this an adjustment in a way. You could call what's happening now an adjustment. So if you know these things, it helps you understand maybe what's going on. I just like to put out there things that pop up to me that I think I should talk about, and you make up your own decision. I'm just giving you information here, just giving you some information, like I always do, on all kinds of different levels, metaphors, teachings, philosophical viewpoints, ancient teachings, ancient news, ancient information. It's always good to have that, because basically it's a good thing to know, and it's a good thing to have knowledge. And it's a good thing to know that certain cycles are coming to an end, and the evil that surrounds us, the darkness that surrounds us, doesn't have long. It really doesn't have long. And whether it's in my lifetime or my grandson's lifetime or whatever, the sooner that this shit is out of here. This oppression, because it's horribly oppressive and depressive. It's depressing as well. That's why it's so important to go to that higher awareness. Stand in your awareness. Stand as the watcher. Stand as the observer. And allow certain forces from that higher awareness, just the higher awareness period, permeates us all. But when we get out of our own way, when we get out of our ego, when we get out of who we think we are and release that's when this transition happens. It's going to be easier. It's going to be easier because a lot of people's egos are going to be destroyed. They're going to be pulverized. They're going to be crazy. People are going to, and it's happening now. People are going into insanity. They're going into insanity because as this higher vibration, excuse me, from the next Yuga comes in, the next transition as it comes in, people will go crazy. They are going crazy. It's like a birth process. It's like birth pangs. So if you don't want to go crazy, you ascend to that higher vibrational frequency and try to stay in that spot, okay, as the observer. And just let it happen. I might do some more videos on standing in your awareness, but you become the subject. Awareness is the subject, and everything around us is the object, okay, including your own body. So, what you see is what you be. What you see is what you be. Just remember that little ditty there. What you see is what you be. In other words, whatever you're seeing out there is what's inside. It's awareness. Okay. I'll leave you with that thought today. Something to think about. Making adjustments for the time period we live in. Adios.